Okay, we're at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
Don't worry, just a quick.
Yeah, we have people coming in too.
Yeah, we have some people coming in, so we'll just say, come on into the Doom panel. If you come in now, I'll stop singing. Hey, you got Mr. Banana here. All right, Mr. Banana's here, so we can. Oh God, he's got a sword. You heard me singing.
No, he's got a banana gun.
He's got a banana gun. Yeah. It's like, I don't want to hear your singing, boy.
That's my job. Let the game sing.
Yeah.
And there we go.
All right, well, welcome everybody. This is a crash course on building your own levels for Doom. There's a lot of source ports and things. We're actually going to be covering just the original vanilla Doom from ID software. I always want to say ID software.
ID software, not it.
Hey, we all did that too early.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We're going to run through the basics and just give you just enough knowledge so that you have what you need to know to go out there and learn more on your own. Give you keywords, vocabulary, and we're going to make a real basic level to get ourselves started.
Educate you.
Educate you, yes. So just really briefly, who are we? I'm SSNTails. This is Saxman. We've known each other for over 25 years. I'm the co-creator of a game called Sonic Roboblast 2. It's a fan game. It's been around since 1998, and it's kind of like the literal definition of a total conversion for Doom. It turns it into a platform game. Saxman here, he's probably most famously noted for creating the Sonic 2 hacking guide. I would personally credit him with starting or popularizing ROM hacks in general for Sega Genesis games. And we're part of a group called the SSRG, which kind of focused. It's a ROM hacking group, for lack of a better term. And we did Sonic stuff last year. This year we're doing a Doom panel. So.
Did you hit record on OBS?
Yes, I did. Mm-hmm. And so it looks like we didn't have much in common, but actually way back when we were kids, like 13 and 14 years old, we did this other little project called Sonic Doom 2, which was a partial conversion. Way back when, you can tell it's made by young teenagers. So anyway, that's kind of where this whole thing got started. And, we kind of credit Doom for even in getting into game modding, ROM hacking, game development. So anyway, some basic terms you're going to need to know about are right here. We have vertex, Linedef, sector, things, and side def. And so before we get into those definitions, the best way to think about your level when building it is to think about blueprints. So you're building it from a top-down type of perspective, and you can only have one floor. It's not multiple floors. That's one of the limitations of the engine. So it makes it really easy to work with too. So a vertex, it's kind of just what you think it is. It has an X and a Y position, but it's a 2D position. It doesn't have a Z-axis. That's actually set by the heights of the sector, which we'll get into later here. It's kind of one of the arguments why Doom is not truly 3D. Next we have a Linedef, it defines the connection of two vertices, or sometimes you'll see Doom calls them vertexes. So if you're searching for more information on something, sometimes you have to put in vertexes instead of vertices. There's some special properties associated with a Linedef. You have a special action number, which indicates some sort of action that occurs with this line. Usually it has to do with whether the player walks up to it and say presses a button, or you cross it like a tripwire. The tag is how you associate that line action with a sector to perform that action. And then there's a couple little attribute flags, such as you can keep monsters from crossing that line. You can hide the game, or hide it on the game auto map, so that when they look at the map of the level, it doesn't show up if you're hiding a secret area or something like that. And then there's also a couple flags that are used for texture alignment that we'll get into later. A sector is when you take the vertex and the Linedefs and you put them together to create a closed shape. And unlike modern 3D, which usually always wants things to be convex, you can make these concave. And properties contain the floor, the ceiling heights, so that's where you get those Z values of the vertices that get generated by the engine. You'll have a light level, so you can make dark hallways or bright light corridors. And these also have special action numbers, but they're not related to the special action numbers in the Linedefs. So you'll use this for, say, if you're walking in like the green goop that you need the radiation suit to protect yourself from, or if you want to add a special lighting effect to the sector. There's some pre-built ones in the engine for like making the lights flicker or pulsing and so on. And then, of course, you got the tag where you can then associate it with a particular Linedef action, like I said earlier.
I was just going to say an example of a sector would be this room here. So,
and then you have things, because you have to populate your world with stuff. So each kind of object in the game, it's got a unique number, and like the vertices, it has an X and Y position. It doesn't have a Z position. It just takes the position of either the floor or the ceiling of the room it's in, the sector. But unlike the vertex, it has additional attributes, such as the angle, which is this rotation. So I guess that's called the yaw axis in aviation terms. If I had to look that up personally, so I think of it as the y-axis. And like Linedef flags, you have certain attributes that you can set, such as the difficulty. There's an easy, medium, and hard. So depending on what difficulty level the user plays, sometimes certain monsters can only appear in hard mode, for example. You can set objects to only appear if you're playing a multiplayer game. Maybe you want to add extra weapons around the level for deathmatch, things like that. And then there's also this other flag it's sometimes called ambush or def, depending on the tool you're using to edit. What it essentially means is that the monster will ignore any sounds made by the player, so that they have to actually visually see the player before they react. And lastly, this is more of something you see if you're doing programming with the source code, but it's still worthy of mentioning because in editors it just kind of shows up as like part of the Linedef. And that's having texture information for each side of the line. A line has two sides, and so you can set the types of textures you want to appear on the first side and on the second side. It also contains information where you can set offsets, so if you want to align textures so you don't have that kind of ugly seam between your polygons.
One reason you might want a texture on both sides of a line is, if there's a gate, you want to be able to see both sides of the gate. So,
yeah, you can create two-sided lines with a fence, and then you can set it to, say, like make it impassable. So then,
right. So a sector doesn't have to be just a plain wall. So
yeah. So a couple notable limitations about Doom is that you can only the world can be interactive, but you can only move the floors up and down. You can't move stuff sideways. So you can have doors that move up and down, lifts that move up and down, but you can't have like a swinging door. Later versions of the Doom engines, like Heretic, or I think it was Hexen. Hexen introduced the ability to have poly objects where you could have swinging doors and stuff. So there's newer versions of Doom that people have edited that kind of overcome some of these limitations, but we're just working with vanilla here. And of course, another notable thing is that the floor and the ceilings have to be completely horizontal. There's no ramps or slopes like you might see in later games like Duke Nukem 3D. And there's also limitations as far as those texture offset variables, but that's kind of, if we have time, maybe we'll cover that later. So the Linedef action types are categorized into they're in four basic categories, and one of them is technically it's only three, but I think because of things that happened during Doom's development, there's actually four different categories. And the main one I'm talking about here is the D type, which indicates a door. You don't require a tag to activate, which is unusual because all the other ones you have to tag a line to the sector you want to actually have the action take place in. The W indicates that it's like a tripwire, so you have to walk over that line in order to trigger something. And then you have S for switch, which is where the player has to walk up and then press, the default key is a space bar to say like open a door, call a lift. That's why I've actually have a picture of Doom Guy here walking up to the lift, because you will use the switch type to activate the calling of that lift down so you can step on it.
You probably should have just called it use.
Yeah, that probably would have been better. Yeah. And then lastly, there's a few lines. There's not many of these in the game that start with a G, and it means it's activated by gunfire. So you have to shoot at the line to activate whatever it is. And it has to be bullets, or you have to punch the wall, counts too. But you can't fire missiles or like the BFG, plasma. Those won't activate it. And then you'll also see another digit after one of these letters, either R or 1. The R means you can perform the action multiple times, and the 1 means you can only execute it one time per play of the level. All right, so for editing tools, we're going to be using the Ultimate Doom Builder. That's probably, I'd say, the best editor out there now. It has a whole bunch of really nice things that I wish we had 20, 30 years ago.
Ain't that the truth?
It totally spoils
Couldn't
you.
even see the level as you were making it.
Yeah, that has 3D previews and everything. Slade is another notable one. It's also will allow you to edit the graphics, the sounds, music, and so forth. But it also has a built-in level editor, but I haven't messed with that much. And I want to note one more other one that still does work, even though it's kind of old. It's called Deep Sea. If you're working with classic Doom, it might actually be a little bit better of a choice depending on the type of level you're making, because we've been working with an older version of the Doom source code lately, and we found that the node builder inside of Deep Sea actually builds maps that work better with the older Doom than Ultimate Doom Builder does. But for the most part, Ultimate Doom Builder is the way to go. It's a great way to get started and start learning here. So we're going to set up Ultimate Doom Builder next, and I've just put a couple of useful cheats on here. For those that don't know, the IDSPISPOPD, that's no clipping for Doom 1, whereas Doom 2 is ID clip. And that stands for smashing pumpkins into small pieces of putrid debris. And I'll let you Google to read about that whole story. It's kind of like a...
That's like an inside joke, right?
Yeah, it's like a very early Doom meme. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to just open it up here. Once the little thing stops spinning, it's real simple. You just go up to New Map. We're going to say our game configuration. It supports a lot of different types of games. We're just going to work with Doom 2. And you have to add the doom2.wad file here so it knows where to pull the graphics and resources from so you can see what you're working with. So I'm going to select this here. Okay. And there we go. We've got our blank map so we can get started. And we're going to just create a really basic room. What I prefer to do, I prefer to just use this rectangle tool all the time. There's ellipse tools and curve tools. I'll leave it up to you to explore those, because I want to keep this as easy as possible so we've got enough time to cover everything. So there we go. I've made my first room made out of
You're done.
4 vertices, 4 lines. Okay, thanks everybody. No. And it gives you some default properties too, which is nice. You can use the keys on the keyboard to switch between different modes. There's a sector mode, S, T, things mode, V, vertices mode, so I can move individual vertices using the right mouse button, by the way. Left click select, so you can select multiple at a time and move them if you want, like this. And then L for lines, so you can edit line properties with a right click. It's pretty intuitive. I'm going to just add a player start here. Have him focus northeast facing. So there we go. And I'm going to just make it a little bit more interesting and draw another sector inside of here. And then I'm going to change the floor texture as well as a little bit of the height. So we'll make it drop down a little bit. Let's add a little light blinks randomly effect to it just for kicks. See, this is the sector special I was talking about.
Oh, that makes the lights flicker? Or?
Yeah, it just ran. Here, we'll go ahead and we'll run it and you can see. Ta-da. Now you'll see that, wait, where's our little, there's no step there. The wall looks, we're missing textures on the sidewalls there. So yeah, it looks like the rug's moving a little bit. So you have to remember that as well. And Ultimate Doom Builder will sometimes tell you if it can figure it out. So if I'm in line mode and I hover over that line, so it gives me a little caution symbol down below there, and it says which one is missing. So I'll just go here, and let's pick, I'm just going to pick this gray brick here. We'll run again. There we go. See, now we've got our step texture on the side. And there's the light flicker too. All right, so next. All right, so the first interactive piece we're going to do is make a door. So you need a tag sometimes. It's whether you're using one of those S actions or you're using a D action. For doors, you have both to choose from. We're going to talk about what this lower MPEG thing is here in a minute, and a little couple of common mistakes. So back over here, well, we need the door to lead to something first. So we're going to create another room real quick. Just go like that. And then we'll draw a rectangular sector in between the two. It's going to serve as our door. Now we want the door to be closed, so we will right-click on the sector, change the properties where we set the ceiling height and the floor height to both be 0. And we don't need a tag either. And another notable thing you can take a look at each of these lines. There's you can see that little line in the midpoint of the line pointing out that way. It might be really hard to see. But what that does is that's an indicator to show you which is the first side of the line and which side is the second side of the line. And when you're working with the D line types, actually with most line types that you interact with, you want to have the first side facing the player. So in this case, we want the door to be open from both sides, so we're going to add the action to both of these lines on both sides of the door. We got to add a texture here. We'll just pick this door, and it's actually action number 1. It must have been the first one that they coded into the game, opening doors. And since it's a D type, we don't need a tag on the line or the sector. And we can go ahead and test it. Head on over the door. We're going to hit the space bar. It opens up. Now, one thing you probably noticed is this, the side textures move up with the door, which is probably not really desired unless you're making some sort of like elevator type effect, which...
yeah, mine don't do that.
Yeah. So that's where this thing called lower unpeg comes into play. And so you select these two sidelines and mark them with the lower unpegged. And what that does is that causes the texture to be anchored from the floor instead of from the ceiling. So we'll try it again. Open the door. See, it stays in place now. It looks a little bit more realistic.
Now there was 2 types of unpegging.
Yeah, so there's also upper MPEG.
So what happens when you use that on the door?
Oh yeah. That's a good example. So the upper forces it to be tied to, instead of from the floor, from the ceiling. So I'll just edit one of these actually, so I can show you real quick. So I'm going to set that upper unpegged on the door itself. It's pretty easy to tell when you've goofed up, because watch. I mean, if you're making something really trippy, I mean, maybe that's what you want, but typically it's not desired here.
It's like a curtain rolling up, unfolding.
What's that?
It's like a curtain.
Yeah, kind of like a curtain. It's like, All right. So next we're going to make a lift, which is essentially a upside down door for all intents and purposes. And we talked a little bit about that upper unpeg. That's where that comes into play here. So first we need to make a little bit of a higher area where the player needs to get to. So I'm going to draw something up here. And then we're going to make the ceiling. Actually, for both of these, we need to make the ceiling quite a bit higher. We'll just 256. And floor height. It's usually good to work in multiples of 8 if you can. And we're missing the texture for the bottom ledge since we raised that one piece of the room. So we'll go with this here. And what's cool about Ultimate Doom Builder actually is you can press the Q key to go into a 3D preview mode. And so you can see what it's going to look like. And you can even select and modify properties from here if you want. It's kind of like an interactive experience. When we were doing this stuff way back when, we didn't have that luxury. It was all, you had to build it and render it in your head while you were working.
DeepSea was very advanced in that it did the 3D.
It was one of the first ones to do that, yeah. All right, so let's add our lift. Inset this in here. Okay. Plat 1 is, well, it matches the door. And I'm going to check this upper unpegged so that we don't run into that trippy issue with the lift like we did with the door. And floor, I think, is step 1. Okay. Now, the D actions don't work with lifts, so you actually have to use an S action. So we need a tag here. So I'm going to give this sector a tag of 1, and then I'm going to press the F key to flip this Linedef here so the first side is pointing out. Did you have a question? Oh, no, you're good? Okay. So this line I'm going to set with the tag of 1, and the action is going to be, let's see, I made a note here, 62. Lift, lower, weight, and then raise back up. And it's repeatable. All right. We'll go ahead and run it. Open the door. We've got our lift here. Walk up to it, call it just like we do with the door. Now you see we forgot the textures on the inside. And one thing that's notable about that is that Doom Builder won't tell you they're missing, because this floor is the same height as the surrounding floor before you activate it. So it has no idea. It's not smart enough to know that this is a lift, although you think they could add that somehow, try to make it a little smarter, but it already does a lot of really nice things, so it's hard to complain. So now what those are is that's the lower texture on that side of the line. And if you want to know the difference between the lower and the upper, I would just encourage you to experiment and then see the effects. So here. Like the door would be considered an upper texture, whereas the lift would be a lower texture. And there we go. We got our working lift. We got our working door. All right, next up, we're going to use a switch. So it works, very similar to how the doors and the lifts do, but it also supports using a certain textures. So there's textures in the game that start with an SW1, and they all have an equivalent SW2 prefixed texture name. If you use one of those, when you activate the switch, it will change the texture either permanently if it's a one-time action or temporarily if it's a repeatable action. And the one we're going to do for this is the door open stay right here, number 61. So we're going to go down here and add another room. That. Ta-da. And since that's a door, I'm going to lower unpeg that. Sometimes you don't always have to do that with doors, but I'm paranoid. I just mark all my doors with lower unpegged to make sure that the texture behaves how I want it to. There's really no harm in doing that. And we'll add a little, we'll add a monster behind there, a demon. All right, so we'll set a tag on this little door sector. Make sure it is the same height as the floor. And add our texture here. And we'll put the switch on this wall up here. So I'm selecting this line, and then if you go up to Linedef, there's this option to split the Linedefs, which is really handy because you can just go ahead and you can subdivide them as much as you need and then take them and drag them where you need them to go. So there. And we want to use one of those switch textures here because you want the player to know it's a switch that they can use. And set the action. Let's see, that was 61. And we're going to use tag number 2. And if you hover over it, it actually does this nice little thing where it points an arrow at the sector that you're affecting.
Handy. I didn't used to do that.
Oh no, it didn't used to do that.
It's like, what does this activate?
You're like, hold on, let me find, okay, which tag? Anyway, and that should be it. So let's go ahead and give it a shot. See, you don't even know there's a door there because I didn't change the texture on it either. But we're going to go ahead and activate it. And since it was a repeatable action, see, it changes and then it goes back. If it's a one-time action, that skull will stay with the red eyes. There we go. Now we got our open door. Okay, another cool thing you can do is make teleporters. So this is useful if you want to, well, you can move the player around, but it also monsters will teleport too, which is kind of cool. I'll talk about that in a minute. It's also a way that you can move the player between areas that aren't physically connected. It works just like how you tag a Linedef. It'll be a walking Linedef since you want to walk across something to trip it and then teleport. Except you add it's called a teleport destination thing in the sector that you have the tag set to. And that tells the game where to place the player. And you can even change the direction the player's facing as well with that. So down here we'll add another little square to indicate a teleporter. Usually you make them 64 by 64 units. And there's a series of textures that start with gate that are typically used. Now you'll see here that the texture doesn't quite look like it's aligned. Well, unfortunately in regular Doom, everything is fixed for the floor and the ceiling textures on a 64 by 64 grid. You can't adjust ones individually. So we can move this around like that just to make it work. I'm going to raise the floor height just a little bit, because that's how they're usually done. I'm going to flip all of these outwards. Otherwise, if you don't do that, the player will walk onto this teleport pad, and they won't teleport until they try to leave it. So it's probably not desired. I'm going to set the lower texture here. Let's use this one. And I want to set the a line type 2. So we're going to use 97. WR teleport, so it's repeatable. And we're going to use a new tag, which is tag number 3. Okay, so we've made our teleporter. Now let's go ahead and make another unconnected room over here. And we will set the tag to 3. And yep, you'll see here it points to all 4 of those lines. So you can see where it's referencing. And then we'll create a teleport destination thing. And we'll have it facing west here. And let's change some of the textures in this room so we can tell that we actually went someplace. That.
Can you change the XY destination point? If you wanted to put it like in the corner, or is it going to put you right in the middle of the room?
Oh yeah, I'll show you that here in a second. Yeah, so it's actually being covered by that tag 3. I have it right here. Is that what you meant? Being able to move it around?
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can set it anywhere in that sector with that tag. But it does have to still be in there. Like I can't just take this and be like, okay. Or if I put it over here, it's not going to work. It has to exist inside that destination tag sector.
It literally won't teleport you, or it'll just teleport you into nowhere.
You had to ask, didn't you?
Well,
Here, I'll show you. I think we have the time for it, so that's why I'm taking the detour. Using one of those cheats. So if you walk over it, nothing. Because it goes to look in that sector and it doesn't find the destination thing position. So it's like, well, if it's not going to teleport, at least you don't get an error. So that's maybe nice, depending on, but you probably need a teleporter. You want to be able to progress. So yeah, I'm going to drag it back over into here. We'll run it again. There we go. And teleported into our new room. All right, a couple other tricks you can do is you can use those teleports to make this monster room where, say, if sound is triggered, or you can put them behind a fence with holes in it where they see you, but they can't physically get to you, and then you can put a teleporter in that room, and when they get activated, they'll start wandering around and trip that teleport wire and then teleport over into the area where you actually are. There's several different maps that use that. Actually, the first map in Doom 2 uses that in one area.
Yeah. I guess on a hard difficulty or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like in the newer Dooms, the 2016 and Doom Eternal, they have these rooms where just monsters start randomly spawning in. I guess that was kind of inspired by this kind of teleport trick that the original Doom had. Another thing you can do are crushers. They're activated only by tripwires. So you're crossing a line and then activating. So for example, we'll just go ahead and set one here. Like here's the crusher start. Let's use a new tag, tag 4. Because I'm evil. Oh no, that has to be tag 3. So we'll just reuse the same tag. So since our destination sector has a tag 3, we'll also make this a tag 3. So you can have multiple actions tagged to the same sector number. Okay, we just activated the crusher by walking through that tripwire. So if I teleport into the room, and I'm dead.
Oh no, you're not
No.
dead yet.
There's different types of crushers. Some of them damage faster than others, to where one does this, the other one is where if you get stuck at all, you're not going to come out of it alive. And so I actually went ahead and I pre-built different stages of all of these, including a shoot switch. And I've made these available for download too, which I'll show you in a minute. But we'll go ahead and we'll play through what the final product looks like. I don't know why it keeps wanting to change that. All right, so here was our start area with the flickering light. Got the door. Lift up here. Monsters can open doors too, by the way. Now you see there's no way to get over to that switch, since in Doom you famously can't jump. So, but it's a shoot switch. So if you shoot it from here, I have it set to open up a door on this side. And then there's also that monster room with the fence I was telling you about, where they start teleporting in. Down here is where I placed a special type with damage, and then I've got a teleporter. So teleporters can be handy for, like, if you fall into a pit, give the player a way to get back out instead of them just having to give up. So that's where everybody was. There's an invisible teleporter in the corner of this room, which is where they all wandered into. And then I've got an invisible tripwire for the crusher right here. It starts activating it.
Very nice.
No. Hey, they deserve it. They're demons anyway, right? I can't even get down there because they're all blocking. All smushed. So am I.
Oh, you didn't take any damage.
Huh?
Oh, you're
I've got
gonna
God
take
mode
out-
on. I use the IDD QD cheat.
Oh, okay, you're busy.
And then at the end here, this is a S1 switch for exit level. That's how you make a basic map. If you want to find us on the internet, Saxman here, he has a Rumble account. That's his handle. I'm on both YouTube and X, Twitter, whatever. I'm mostly active on YouTube, and actually I will eventually put this talk up on my channel if you want to reference it again later. And I've got a URL here that you can download those WAD files if you want to check out each step of the build process that we went through. And it has batch files in it as well for running. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, I'm using a source port of Doom for these demos called Chocolate Doom. And the whole point of Chocolate Doom is to try to be as faithful as possible to the original version of Doom, but running on modern computers. So it's really handy if you want to make sure your stuff works with the original Doom. If it runs on Chocolate Doom, really, really high chance that it's going to work. Lastly, before we start taking questions, our buddy Stealth here. He has a panel right next door, right after us, 2 o'clock here, headcanon. He used to be part of SSRG with us. He ended up going on developing his own studio. He's known for working on games such as Sonic Mania with Sega. He's got a pretty interesting story to tell, so be sure to check that out right next door here. So anybody got any questions?
So to start off with, you download the Chocolate Doom. You just
Yeah, I would download Chocolate Doom. Just do a quick search. I think it's chocolatedoom.github.io, or it's a GitHub site, I think.
Are there restrictions?
Oh, I'm not on the internet. You will need a copy of Doom from somewhere because you need the Doom 2 or the Doom.wad file. You can get that just by buying Doom on Steam or finding an old CD or floppy disks if you're really that dedicated. But yeah, it only provides the exe file essentially. You still have to apply the rest of the copy of the game for it to work. Anything else? Yeah.
In some Doom levels, they have an open skybox, like in E1M1's secret area.
Oh yeah, good question. So if you want to add a sky, you can. There's a special ceiling texture you can use. It's called F_sky1. And now it won't make a window. The trick with the window is that you have to create a bordering sector on the wall and then set it to that sky texture and then lower the ceiling. It won't draw the upper texture if it detects that you're using a sky ceiling texture in that sector. And so that's how they did that trick with in E1M1.
Yeah, I was just going to add, there's not a F-Sky 2 or F-Sky 3, just F-Sky 1. And depending on which map you're on, the game will choose the sky for you.
Yeah, one of 3 different skies.
They used to have F-Sky 2 and 3 in early alpha beta versions, and they got rid of that and just simplified it.
Oh,
so.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been great if they kept it. That was so annoying. Most Doom source ports have solved that problem too, by the way. Hey, anything else?
Can you adjust the starting point on the map?
You mean where the player starts?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just take this thing here and you can drag it anywhere on the map where you want him to.
Be really mean, just start him in the pit with the acid. Yeah.
Yeah, right down here. He looks pretty surprised.
What happens if you start in the void?
If you start where?
In the void.
Oh, that's another good question. You start in the void. And
I assume it just doesn't work, but
oh, it works. It's just undefined. So, for example, I'll just stick it here in the void.
oh yeah.
And since those lines are impassable, you can't even walk into any of the rooms. Yeah.
Because it blocks you from crossing over on either side of the line. So you're stuck out in the void there.
This is a speedrunning strat somehow. I don't know exactly how it works, but I've seen people use it for the speedrunning.
There is a bug in the original Doom, and I don't know, Chocolate Doom might have it too actually, where depending on the angle of the wall, you can move really fast along the side of it if you hug it at a certain position.
Yeah, and
I'm
I'm
sure
outside of
speedrunners
it with the Hall Mirrors thing going on.
Yep. Another really cool project I'd encourage you to check out is Team TNT's Boom. I think PR Boom is the name of the one that will run on Windows. But it kind of takes vanilla Doom and then adds all these extra editing features to it. You can create deep water, you can have translucent textures, a lot of different extra Linedef actions, create conveyor belts, scrolling textures and stuff. It's really neat. GZ Doom, if you want to go all out, GZ Doom is probably the premier maintained source port now that has jillions of bells and whistles, and you can have slope sectors, swinging doors, the whole gambit.
GZ Doom, not Z Doom.
No, GZ Doom. Yeah, Z Doom isn't maintained anymore.
Oh, I didn't know that. Huh.
Yeah, GZ. Some other guy forked it, added GL support to it, open GL support to it. So he called it GZ Doom, but now it has both. It does software rendering. It does hardware. It probably has a Vulkan renderer on it now. By now, it's kind of like the ultimate Doom builder of Doom source ports. So an Ultimate Doom builder does support building GZ Doom maps. You can get really crazy.
I always thought that the Boom source port, to me, it felt official without being official.
Yeah, they tried to remain as faithful as possible to the original while also adding all of these extra things that you could do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool. All right, anything else? Okay, well, hopefully I've given you enough, and you got some terms, some terms that you can Google, and the Doom Wiki out there is really, really handy. I think it's doomwiki.org or doom.wiki.org. I wish I had that. I don't have internet on this laptop right now, so I can't tell you, but if you just search for Doom Wiki, it comes right up, and you pop some of that terminology and what you want to do in there, and you're bound to find what you need. So, thanks for coming.
Got plenty of time to pack up, too.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is like our 4th year in a row we've held this time slot.